If you don't know what flock is, boy, boy, are you in for a video today.
There is a war fought all around us every single day, which many people have never even heard of. It's a battle against authoritarian surveillance, and we, the people of this nation, and the world for that matter, are currently losing that war.
Yeah, that's illegal. You shouldn't do that. That's not okay. But so Flock, they have cameras all over. I know at least in the area where I live, you can't get on almost any freeway or any main or side street without being filmed. They have gunshot detection. The CEO of the company was talking about how he was about to start having drones come out, and the drones will be up before the police could come out. So basically, if anything happened, which I'm not pro crime, you shouldn't be out there doing crime, but I don't think we should just be being watched all day. Every move you make, every single day, every time I don't know. Boom. Mm. Yeah, but don't cut these things down. That's illegal.
Let me begin by describing the enemy, or at least one of them. Flock Group Incorporated is an American safety technology company headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, who specializes in the production of multiple devices, but chief among them, something called ALPRs, also known as automated license plate readers.
We're
These
gonna
cameras,
read them
individually powered by
tags,
their own
baby.
solar panels, utilize a proprietary AI model to capture and interpret images of passing vehicles, or so they say. Far beyond any sort of current competitor, Flock cameras gather information such as make, model, car, and license plate, but also other visible characteristics like roof racks, aftermarket parts, or even bumper stickers. In the past few years, over 90,000 of these cameras have popped up all across the United States, with hundreds of
90,000.
thousands more globally. But the distribution
Look at all those. Look at all these chickens. These are all cameras.
framework for how these
Sheesh. It's everywhere.
cameras end up in local communities is a little bit obfuscated. Flock as a company doesn't have just one contract, they have thousands. The hardware that they make and the software that they're perfecting in order to run it are being sold to police precincts, private businesses, major corporations, municipalities, and everything in between. According to the company themselves, using court decisions as well as elected representative statements for justification, according to the company themselves, what they're doing is not mass surveillance. But if you look just a tiny bit deeper, it becomes flatly impossible to ever accept that explanation.
We saw those dots. We saw those dots. There's no way in the world you could say that's not mass surveillance. It's not a little surveillance. It's it's not even close to a little surveillance. Like I said, you can't go anywhere where I live without being seen, which is crazy.
The way that Flock represents their products and services appears to be wildly different from reality. Quote, Flock ALPRs do not and cannot track vehicles, much less individual people. ALPRs take a point in time image of the rear of vehicles on public roadways. They are incapable of tracking the whole of anyone's movements, a determination that has been consistently made by courts across the country. End quote. That
But if you got enough of them, if I take 40 or 50 pictures of you on the street, I know which direction you're going.
statement from the official Flock website needs to be immediately disputed. Right off the bat, taking a photograph of a vehicle with a timestamp, a license plate, and a location absolutely is fundamentally tracking them. If you take one
Yeah,
snapshot with one camera, but then take five more during separate intervals across a 25-minute journey at various different
right.
locations, you are undeniably tracking movements.
That's what I
Period.
just said.
It may be true that the cameras themselves are employed by different jurisdictions or companies. It may also be true that whatever customer originally purchased the cameras had no intention for them to be used in such a way. But the simple truth of the matter is that compiling this type of surveillance data into a searchable index, which is what they're doing, allows for the tracking of citizens. And if we take a much more precise example, we can see exactly how that's possible. Let's use the Bessemer City, North Carolina Police Department for demonstrational purposes. This particular client operates about 20 LPR cameras. They've cataloged over 72,000 vehicles in the past 30 days alone. But all of this data is being
72,000 vehicles. almost 73,000 vehicles in 30 days. That's crazy. And there was 21 searches. 21.
with almost 2,000 additional organizations across the entire country. These are mainly local police departments or federal law enforcement agencies, but the concept of this isn't mass surveillance falls apart immediately when you realize that the majority of your clients communicate, share, and coordinate their data not only with each other, but also the government. Historically speaking, governments with the ability to individually track the movements of their population.
Did you see Pookie over there? I can't find him. I don't know. Let me call Tom. Hey, Tom. You see Pookie over there?
Do not end up using that ability to enhance freedoms. Still, the concept of ALPR cameras is a mere surface level issue because the true scope of the problem is much larger. All over the Flock official website are safety proclamations, safer communities, privacy first, utopian claims of a better society. But if you look at their FAQ, you'll find statements like this one, quote, "Who has access to Flock footage? Flock will not share, sell, or access your data," end quote. Elsewhere again, quote, "Nobody from Flock Safety is accessing or monitoring your footage," end quote. That
So who was doing the searching? Because it said there was, 21 searches in the last 30 days?
sounds good as a simple declaration on a website, but after a series of public records requests by a man named Jason Hunyar in Dunwoody, Georgia, the depth of the issue becomes far more obvious. It would seem, based on public records disclosure, that Flock employees are not only accessing data from cameras routinely, they're also facilitating API access for various third parties, despite the fact that their customer, Dunwoody, Georgia PD in this case, allegedly didn't have an existing agreement with that third party. These records also appear to show that Flock employees were deliberately masking certain accounts from having their searches appear in audits, as well as numerous Flock employees either accessing live cameras or previous recordings. In some cases, these cameras were positioned to view pools, gymnastics rooms, and fitness studios, while the VP of...
Oh. And they being weird. You being freaky. Naughty boy.
development, Bob Carter, seems to have accessed many such cameras, one in particular at a children's gymnastics room in the local Jewish community center, allegedly during a sales demonstration.
Just
The company
nasty.
has since done a fair bit of damage control on all of this, including a letter to the affected community apologizing for poor judgment, but there's a couple of things we now need to address. First and foremost, license plate readers on public roadways are not the only product that Flock sells. Obviously. If it were, why would they ever be in the gym or the community center? Far from it, actually. In addition to the...
Hey, I was watching a interview with the CEO the other day, and he was talking about how a lot of people who buy those cameras don't even know which model they're getting or what it does. Like, they're just buying it and putting it up. Sheeple. We got the sheeple. Sheeple alert.
AI-powered license plate scanners, Flock also manufactures microphones. They're called Ravens, and they, quote, detect community disruption, expand awareness of nonviolent threats, including sideshows, fireworks, and other disruptive community activity.
And what's disruptive? Like, if me and my kids out there playing and we yelling and having fun, is that disruptive? Or, if you think we're in an argument, now is that disruptive and now the cops show up? Like, that's a slippery slope to be on.
End quote. Not only is the company selling widespread, always active roadway detection, which is being shared by an exponentially growing number of local and federal law enforcement agencies, they're also selling audio detection, and if you want the most horrifying example of all, on top of this, they're selling AI-powered motion tracking surveillance cameras called Condors, specifically designed to monitor, track, and zoom on human targets. These are the type of cameras that were presumably accessed live by their employees, despite all of the claims on their website, but these cameras are called PTZ, Pan, Tilt, Zoom, which are purpose-made for the tracking of people and faces. That may seem fine to some of you, subjectively. We all have different thresholds in terms of privacy invasion, but what if I now said that a large number of these Flock Condor
I don't like you in my business like that. I don't like it.
cameras had been hooked up and left openly accessible to the entire internet? Jointly published by Ben Jordan and 404 Media, it turned out that many of these cameras were publicly viewable, which is dangerous from a security perspective right off the bat,
It's
but
crazy.
also gave picture-perfect insight into what they're actually doing. These cameras track movement. They will zoom in on phone screens when visible, and they're positioned everywhere, from playgrounds to parking lots, walking paths, stores, and more.
Hide your kids, hide your wife. They filming everybody.
Even the LPR cameras, license plate readers, are now popping up aimed at basketball courts, bike trails, and entrances to major consumer locations, thoroughfares, malls, things like that. You don't have to look very far to find examples where the camera is taking infrared pictures of people, not vehicles. No vehicles are even present in such cases. And for the sake of totality, in their second quarter 2025 law enforcement summary, Flock unveiled that all of their LPRs will become video-enabled with a mere software patch. Just to clarify, as the company simultaneously claims, even now,
See, and that's what people do sometimes. That's what some of these companies do. They'll create something that only does a certain thing, and then with a little patch, now it can fly and it has X-ray vision.
of initial publication, as the company claims that LPRs do not constitute mass surveillance because they're simply point-in-time images, they have also offered a very simple upgrade, completely free, I might add, so that existing cameras can now have video capabilities enabled at the press of a button. It's kind of like Schrödinger's camera, a network of...
So right. So it wasn't surveillance because it was just a picture, but now we're going to do video. And is it going to be surveillance then?
surveilling devices taking point-in-time images, but it's technically not a surveillance network, according to them, even though the cameras literally also have video, except when someone uses it that way, because that's what it does and how it's being used. Freedom of Information Act and public records requests are now showing definitively that these cameras are being used for traffic citations, the information is being used by Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, across deportation activities, and for the purpose of monitoring protests as well.
You know, they had those traffic cameras and they got rid of them because they were illegal. And now we got new traffic cameras that aren't with the police. And these ones are legal.
The cameras that are definitely not a surveillance network are being used precisely how one might theoretically begin using a mass surveillance network before it's fully completed.
Right.
Contained in now public records from Danville, Illinois, as a description for why law enforcement agencies are then using the Flock database, we can see ICE plus ERO, which is Enforcement and Removal Operations for ICE, which means that Flock cameras, whether or not they were ever intended to become this, which I would presume they were based on company decision-making, Flock cameras are being used as an integrated surveillance database across the United States where federal law enforcement agencies access real-time data, previous license plate pictures, car specifications, and even always listening microphones to track, arrest, and deport targets. This is where it gets tricky, okay? The individual reason why law enforcement decides to use a mass surveillance system isn't the only factor that matters. A certain group of people, politically, tend to support the idea of law enforcement doing this, at least in terms of immigration. It's a very controversial subject in America right now. But what we need to understand is the difference between a framework and general...
I mean, but what about when it thinks you're somebody that you're not? And now you're hemmed up. Now you're in trouble. And I've seen some videos where people got arrested and were in jail for a while. I mean, you know. Then it came to find out that AI was wrong. And just like, my bad. But head over to Upper Echelon if you want to finish watching this video. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, share it with somebody. And let me know what you think about these Flock cameras. Have a good one.